No one loves a fat girl, sir, but I can cook. The wind cut across the Montana plains like 1,000 tiny knives, and Martha pressed her worn shawl closer to her body as she stood before the rancher's door. Her hands trembled not from the cold, but from the weight of desperation that had driven her here. She'd walked 7 miles through snow that morning, her boots splitting at the seams, her stomach hollow with hunger she'd learned to ignore. Behind that heavy oak door lived her last chance, and she knew it. She was 28 years old and invisible. That's what the world had taught her. Too large, too plain, too quiet to matter. The other settler women whispered behind gloved hands when she passed, their eyes sliding away as if her very presence embarrassed them. 3 times she'd been turned away from households seeking help. "We need someone more presentable," they'd said, the words sharp as glass. What they meant was clear. No one wanted a fat girl cluttering up their parlor, reminding their husbands and sons that not all women were delicate, decorative things. But Martha could cook. Lord, how she could cook. It was the one gift her mother had, given her before the fever took her, the ability to transform the humblest ingredients into something that tasted like love itself. In a frontier town where most meals were beans and hardtack, Martha's cooking was nothing short of magic. She raised her fist and knocked. The sound echoed in the vast silence of the winter morning. The door swung open, and there stood James Thornton, the rancher who owned half the valley. He was tall and weathered, maybe 45, with gray threading through his dark hair and lines carved deep around his eyes. Those eyes studied her now, not unkindly, but with the practiced assessment of a man who'd learned to measure people quickly. "Help you, miss?" Martha's throat constricted. She'd rehearsed this moment 100 times during her long walk, but now the words stuck like thorns. Finally, she forced them out, her voice barely above a whisper. "I heard you needed a cook, sir. I know what I look like. I know what people say." Her chin quivered, but she pressed on, the truth spilling out before courage failed her entirely. "No one loves a fat girl, sir, but I can cook." The silence that followed felt eternal. Martha stared at her ruined boots, waiting for the door to close, for the familiar rejection that would send her back into the snow with nowhere left to go. Instead, she heard something unexpected, a long, slow exhale. "Come inside," James said quietly. "It's too cold for this conversation on the porch." The warmth of the house enveloped her like an embrace. She found herself in a large kitchen that had clearly known better days. Dishes were piled in the basin. The stove looked like it hadn't been properly cleaned in months, and the whole room carried the stale smell of a household. Without a woman's touch, James gestured to a chair at the scarred wooden table. "Sit, please." Martha perched on the edge of the seat, her hands clasped tight in her lap. The rancher poured 2 cups of coffee from a dented pot, setting one before her. Then he sat across the table, his calloused hands wrapped around his own cup, and when he spoke, his voice carried a weight that made Martha finally look up. "My wife died 3 years ago," he said. "Sarah. She was small and pretty, all the things folks say a woman should be, and I loved her more than my own life." He paused, his jaw working. "But you want to know what I remember most? Not how she looked. I remember how she'd hum while she worked, how she'd leave little notes in my saddlebag when I rode out, how she'd sit with me on hard days and not say a word, just be there." Martha's eyes stung. "My daughter Emma is 12 now. For 3 years, she's grown up watching me try and fail to run this house, watching me hire women who cook food that tastes like sawdust, who ignore her when she asks questions, who treat this place like it's beneath them because it's just a ranch and we're just ranch people." He leaned forward. "So let me tell you what I heard when you knocked on my door. I didn't hear no one loves a fat girl. I heard a woman brave enough to walk 7 miles in winter. I heard someone honest enough to name her fear out loud. And I heard someone who believes she has value, even if the world keeps telling her different." A tear slid down Martha's cheek. She couldn't stop it. "Can you really cook?" James asked, and there was the ghost of a smile in his weathered face. "Yes, sir. I truly can." "Then I've got a proposition for you. You work here 1 week. If Emma and I are happy, the job is yours. Room, board, and fair wages. No judgment. No whispers. Just honest work." Martha nodded, not trusting her voice. That first evening, She prepared a simple supper, roasted chicken with herbs she found in a forgotten garden plot, potatoes creamed with butter and wild onions, biscuits that rose tall and golden. When 12-year-old Emma took her first bite, her eyes went wide with wonder. "Papa, it tastes like before." James looked at Martha across that table, and something passed between them. Understanding, maybe, or recognition that sometimes the most broken people know best how to create wholeness for others. 1 week became 2, then a month, then a season. Martha transformed that kitchen into a place of warmth and abundance. But more than that, she transformed the house into a home again. She taught Emma to braid her hair. She mended James's shirts without being asked. She left wildflowers in jars on the windowsill and sang while she worked, filling the silence with life. And slowly, something else grew. James began lingering in the kitchen after supper, talking about his day. Emma started calling Martha by her first name, then later something that sounded almost like Ma. Martha felt herself unfurling, like a flower that had lived too long in shadow, finally turning toward the sun. One evening in early spring, as Martha kneaded dough for the next morning's bread, James came in from the barn. He stood in the doorway, hesitating, then crossed to where she worked. "Martha, I need to say something." Her hands stilled. Here it comes, she thought. The moment he realizes he can do better, find someone prettier, someone the town won't talk about. "I know you came here believing no one could love you," James said carefully. "And I'm not going to stand here and tell you that you should change what you believe about yourself. That's your journey." He paused, choosing his words. "But I need you to know what I see. I see a woman who makes my daughter laugh, who turns a house into a home, who works harder than anyone I've ever known and never asks for praise." His voice roughened. "I see a woman who saved us, Martha. Emma and me both. We were drowning and you threw us a rope." Martha's vision blurred with tears. "I'm not asking anything of you," James continued. "I just needed you to know that you're seen here. Truly seen. And what we see is beautiful." Martha turned to him then, flour dusting her hands and apron. Her round face flushed from the oven's heat, and for the first time in her life she felt it. That profound truth that had eluded her for so long. She was worthy of love. Not despite who she was, but because of it. "Thank you," she whispered. James smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. "No, Martha, thank you." The sunset painted the Montana sky in shades of gold and crimson. Through the kitchen window, Martha could see Emma playing with the new foal in the paddock, her laughter carrying on the spring breeze. Inside, the bread rose in its pans. The stove radiated warmth, and the table was set for supper. Martha had walked 7 miles through snow looking for work. What she'd found instead was home, and the profound truth that kindness, when offered freely, has the power to heal wounds the world has spent years inflicting. That evening, as the 3 of them sat down to eat, James reached across the table and gently squeezed Martha's hand. Emma beamed at them both. And in that moment, surrounded by the golden light of oil lamps and the rich smell of fresh bread, Martha finally understood. Love wasn't about deserving. It was about being human, being present, and being brave enough to let others see your heart. "This is the best biscuits ever," Emma declared, reaching for her third. Martha laughed, a sound of pure joy. "Then I'll teach you to make them yourself." And outside, the spring wind whispered across the plains, carrying with it the promise of new beginnings.